All right, today we're going on a journey to Russia's Far East, to a place that for a lot of people feels like it's on another planet, Sakhalin Oblast. This is Russia's only region that's located entirely on islands, a true frontier of volcanoes, really unique cultures, and a history that's, well, it's complicated. So let's get into it. You know, there's this idea about places like Sakhalin. The thinking usually goes something like this. It's just too far, it's way too hard to get to, and it's got to be unbelievably expensive to visit. A beautiful idea for sure, but a dream that's pretty much impossible. But is that really the case?
Well, this number might just change your mind. 30,000 rubles. That's roughly the cost of an 8-hour flight from Moscow all the way to Sakhalin. For a trip that long, that's surprisingly within reach. It kind of proves this impossible dream is a lot more real than you might think. So what do you find when you actually get there?
Our story starts with the island of Sakhalin itself, which, believe it or not, got its name completely by accident. Yeah, a simple geographical mistake that has somehow managed to stick around for centuries. Here's how it happened. Way back when, French mapmakers saw the Manchu name for the Amur River, Sakhalin Ula, which means Black River, and they just assumed it was also the name for the huge island sitting right at the river's mouth. So they wrote it on the map, and boom. Just like that, a little cartography oopsie gave Russia's largest island its name for good.
And what an island it is. It's this place of incredible, almost jarring contrasts. You've got these ancient indigenous traditions rubbing up against a really grim penal history, and all of it is happening in a landscape where nature has gone a little weird.
First up, you have the Nivk people, one of the most ancient groups in all of Siberia. Their entire culture is woven from the sea. I mean, they traditionally made windproof clothes out of fish skin and live on staples like yukol, which is this kind of sun-dried fish. And they have a fantastic sense of humor, too. They jokingly call red caviar varenye, which means jam. Think about that. Their culture is so unique that one of their own writers, Vladimir Songji, literally had to invent their first alphabet. But then, there's a much darker side to Sakhalin's history. From 1869 to 1906, its isolation made it the perfect spot for a katorga, which was one of the Russian Empire's most brutal forced labor penal colonies. And this is where the famous writer Anton Chekhov enters the picture. He was determined to see what was really going on there. So in 1890, Chekhov, who was a doctor, remember, not just an author, made this absolutely grueling journey. Already sick with tuberculosis, he traveled for 82 days straight across the country to reach the island. His goal? To conduct a full census of thousands of convicts and settlers. What came out of it was his powerful book, Sakhalin Island, which completely blew the lid off the horrors of the penal system and started a huge debate back in Russia. And yet, in this place with such a grim human history, the natural world is just surreal. The island experiences this weird phenomenon called gigantism, where totally normal plants like burdock and different grasses grow over 2 meters tall. They literally tower over your head. It's wild.
Okay, so from Sakhalin, we're going to hop even further east to the Kuril Islands. This is a dramatic volcanic chain rising straight out of the ocean. This is Russia's fiery frontier.
See, the Kurils sit smack dab on the Pacific Ring of Fire. This is basically a zone where a huge tectonic plate, the Pacific Plate, is diving underneath the Eurasian Plate. And the result of that cosmic collision? Constant geological chaos. Earthquakes, eruptions, and the creation of the 56-plus volcanic islands that make up the Kuril chain.
The biggest, and you could argue the most spectacular of these islands, is Itaru. It really feels like a volcanic masterpiece, just showing off the raw power and weird artistry of nature.
The geology on Itarup creates these amazing contrasts. On one part of the coast, you've got the white rocks. They're made of this porous pumice that was created in these explosive underwater eruptions. The rock is so light it can actually float. But then you go a little further and you find the black rocks. These are dense, heavy columns of basaltic lava that cool down really slowly, cracking into these perfect geometric hexagonal shapes. Two totally different landscapes created by the very same volcanic forces.
But maybe the most unbelievable thing on the whole island is at the foot of the Buransky volcano. There, geothermal energy heats up an entire river to nearly boiling, almost 100 degrees Celsius, sending huge clouds of steam up into the air. And its name? Yep, the Boiling River.
So what do you do with a river that's literally boiling?
Well, you make lunch, of course. People will put some eggs in a little basket, lower them into that geothermal water, and in about 10 or 15 minutes, you've got a perfectly hard-boiled, volcanically cooked snack. It is one heck of a memorable way to experience geology up close.
Now, beyond all the incredible nature, this region is really defined by a messy political history that, to this day, still isn't settled. Just look at how many times control has changed hands. In 1875, a treaty gave all of Sakhalin to Russia and all of the Kurils to Japan. Simple enough. But then, after the Russo-Japanese War in 1905, Japan won the southern half of Sakhalin. Then you fast forward to 1945, at the very end of World War II, and the Soviet Union moves in and seizes all of it. This all leads to a really crucial moment in 1951.
So, the real core of the modern-day dispute is all buried in the fine print of the 1951 San Francisco Peace Treaty. In it, Japan officially gives up its claim to the Kuril Islands. But, and this is the huge but, the document never actually says who they're giving the islands to. And because the Soviet Union never signed that treaty in the first place, it created this legal black hole, this ambiguity that is still fueling the territorial fight between Russia and Japan today.
Okay, to finish up our trip, let's circle back to the unique character and the flavors of these islands. It's the stuff that really leaves a lasting mark on anyone who visits.
The taste of this region is just as wild as its scenery. You can pull giant oysters right out of the water in Lake Basay, go foraging for this local berry called klapovka to make syrups, and even eat salads made from fresh fern shoots. And it's not just the food that's one of a kind. The islands are home to the Karelian bobtail, a native cat breed that is famous for its short, little pom-pom of a tail.
So from mapping mistakes to boiling rivers, from penal colonies to volcanic feasts, Sakhalin and the Kurils are a land of powerful extremes. It's this incredible intersection of raw, untamed nature and a very unsettled human history. Which leaves us with one big question. What on earth will the next chapter for this remote frontier look like? Thanks for joining.